Many employers aren't aware of the fact that the National Association of Professional Background Screeners has instituted an accreditation process for their members. Although that doesn't mean that if you are affiliated with NAPBS that you are actually accredited. So today we're going to talk about that accreditation. My name is Nick Fishman, and I'm joined here by our Vice President of Compliance and General Counsel, Angela Bosworth, our President and Chief Operating Officer, Jason Morris, and our Vice President of Quality Service, Kevin Bachman. Jason, what is accreditation?
So accreditation is a program that the National Association has been adamant about launching since we started 10 years ago. And it's really what you said, an affirmation of processes like data security, processes like compliance, your organizational performance and professionalism of your company, truth in advertising, are you really doing what you're saying you're doing? And all that's done by an independent verification auditor. The auditor comes in and verifies all the things that you're putting forth on your accreditation program in order to make you an accredited company. It's a long process. It's not a quick process. It takes many months to do, and it's a distinction that less than 2% of companies in our industry have gotten.
Yeah. So Kevin, you were kind of the engineer behind putting the whole accreditation process in place. What was involved?
Well, Jason brings up a good point as to the value of the program. It's independent validation. It's confirmation of practices, processes, and procedures that a screening company employs in their day-to-day work. Why aren't all NAPBS companies accredited? It's really, really difficult. And by that, I don't mean that the process of running a great background check program is difficult, but that start-to-finish evaluation of your entire organization, each step along the way, everything you do for your organization, that's the process that many companies at this point have chosen not to go through. And we feel because the program is independently validated, it's a real boon to companies that are.
So Jason and Angela, I guess I'll direct this to you. Why is it important to employers that a background screening firm be accredited?
I think that there are many choices when it comes to choosing a provider for background checks. And companies that choose to go through the accreditation process are committing to verifying that they are in fact exercising best practices and compliance. It gives employers just a neutral third-party seal of approval, if you will.
Like a good housekeeping seal.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I kind of think, like, for the candidate, too, it could be important to the candidate to know that they're being screened by an accredited company. Either one of you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I have to think there's great comfort in a candidate knowing that their personal information is protected.
Right.
It's safeguarded. The background screening process that they're going through, it's a very nervous time for candidates. They can take comfort in the fact that a reputable company is doing it. Jason and Angela both talked about the stamp of approval, so to speak. That's helpful for employers. There's many background check companies out there. Everybody's literature is glossy. Everybody's website looks good. This helps them separate quality providers.
Right.
Yeah. And so how does an employer go about finding a company that's accredited? Because as we were talking about today, just because somebody's a member of NAPBS does not mean that they've achieved that accreditation.
Companies can go to the NAPBS website and see a list of companies that are accredited. And we're seeing it more and more on RFPs when companies are going out to look for a new provider or reevaluating their program. We're seeing that more and more. I guess just from a legal compliance standpoint, I think it's a really good idea for employers, if they are looking for a new provider, to ask to see what are your policies on compliance. How do you educate your clients on new laws and regulations? And if someone has gone through the steps to become accredited, they have that information readily available, and someone else has evaluated that to say it's a good process.
Yeah, and just to put an exclamation point on this, it's not just getting accredited the first time. You have to continue to perform in order to maintain that.
And you go through the process, the accreditation process. There's a desk audit, and then an auditor comes on site and does a physical audit, and then 3 years into your accreditation, you're re-audited. So it's a 5-year, 6-year accreditation. and halfway through you have to revalidate everything. And the standards change, so you got to make sure that you're always on top of it, and the person in your organization that might have put the program together is also in charge of making sure that things are adhered to all the way through.
And that's a great distinction, Nick. A company that is accredited in 2010, 2011, 2012, that's not a lifetime accreditation. Processes, policies, procedures change. A great process 3 years ago may be a bad process today, and vice versa. There's over 70 standards, and there's sub-standards within those standards. So organizations have to routinely commit themselves to running their business on a day-to-day basis, not just 2 or 3 years ago for the purpose of earning an accreditation, but every single day for each of their clients.
It's important to know too, and I love this about the accreditation process. It's not a process where you have to score an 80 or better to win. You have to get 100%. There's no room for error. So you have to adhere to every single one of the 70 plus standards in order to pass your accreditation. And eventually more and more companies will become accredited. For some it's just not a priority right now. But for us, I think that we've always put ourselves out there as a best practices leader. We do a lot of educating the marketplace. So for us, it was a no-brainer. We had to be accredited.
Yeah.
Are we saying that if a company isn't accredited, that they are not qualified?
No, not at all. But again, it's about priorities.
Just a lot less.
Yeah, it's about priorities. I mean, it's not as important to everyone. It's expensive. It's time-consuming, and we're all running businesses. So it takes time for people to really energize themselves to a point where they want to do it.
From our vantage point, going through the accreditation process, we were presented with a number of operational decisions that we needed to make. We didn't go in the direction of saying to ourselves, well, we have to be accredited, therefore we're going to change this process and do it this way. What it did force us to do was review and validate internally each and every method that we had to make sure that we were doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, so ultimately, to the end user of the product, the employer, accreditation really means a seal of approval, as they were saying before. Seal of approval that you are that your background checks are accurate, that you're using best practices, that you're in compliance, that you're securing the data that you're gleaning on applicants. These are the important things and why employers should care. If you're interested in learning more about NAPBS accreditation, please visit our website at www.employeescreen.com.